Yes, I know. Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now, today we're at the village of Pamphill in Dorset. It's located to the west of Wimborne Minster, just off the B3082 road which goes from Wimborne to Blandford Forum. And we're going to be walking a roughly 6-mile figure of 8-ish route. We'll look at a few things in Pamphill and then head south towards Cowgrove. We'll join the Stour Valley Way heading west, then the Hardy Way to check out the White Mill and possibly the oldest river bridge in Dorset before heading back along an ancient track. Now, I'm filming at the beginning of October. It is a glorious sunny autumnal morning. Blue sky, hardly a cloud up there. It is a little bit chilly, but it's warming up quickly. Logan's got his fleece on at the moment, but I think you'll be able to take it off quite soon. Should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, I parked my car at a free car park in just off the Pamphill Green, and we'll start off with a little look round the village. And what better place to start than the church, which is just behind me here. And it's the Church of St Stephen. Now, it doesn't actually show on a 1901 map because, well, it wasn't built until 1907 or 1908. I need to explain. Just to the northwest of here is Kingston Lacy House and an estate. It's a large country house that was built between 1663 and 1665 by the Banks family, replacing an earlier house. And it's been owned by the National Trust since 1981. But the church here was built for the Banks family. There was a previous church near the site that was recorded as far back as 1229, but by 1573 it was described as being abandoned. I think eventually it burnt down. There are no remains of it today, and folk aren't 100% sure where it was actually located. But there may have been plans to build a church here as far back as 1846, but it wasn't actually constructed until around about 1907, and it consists of a nave, a chancel, a west tower, a south transept, a south porch and a vestry north of the chancel. The tower is something like 40 foot high, and wood from the estate round here, mainly oak, was used in its construction. The grass enclosure in which the church actually rests has never actually been consecrated, so there are no burials here. Well, sadly, the church is locked, which is a shame, so we can't go inside. It's a bit unusual actually for a Dorset church on our travels, but there you go. So we're now going to sort of continue southwards to start our journey into the countryside. The little village of Pamphill is very small. Indeed, up until 1894, I think it was considered to be part of Wimborne Minster, although there has been a settlement here for centuries. I'm just making my way away from the church down this little road. Beautiful avenue of oak trees, which I believe was planted in 1846. What a lovely bit of open area. And this is all part of Pamphill Green, and it was known as Fairs Green in the 1400s, as indeed there was a fair held here twice a year, granted to the lords of the manor. We're just over there behind the wall and trees is the Pamphill Manor House. We're not going to be able to get any closer, obviously it's private property. But it was built at the end of the 17th century around the core of a 16th century building, and it's had additions in the 18th and 19th centuries. And it was built by a chap called Matthew Beethel, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was steward to Sir Ralph Banks, the owner of Kingston Lacy. Well, I just passed this tree and I was wondering if it had any major significance, because as you can see it's been fenced off. Just spoken to a lovely chap who's a local here. He doesn't think it is, but he remembers it was struck by lightning, so that's why that's all there is left of it today. Oh, what a terrific setting for a cricket pitch. And this is the home to Kingston Lacy Cricket Club, who I believe play in the Dorset League Division 3. There's a beautiful pavilion over there, sort of in the shade of the sun at the moment. It was rebuilt in 2004, but apparently it's a replica of the 1907 original. And this is the school in the village. And parts of it actually date back to 1698, and it was a school with accommodation for the schoolmaster as well as almshouses for 8 people, and it looks like it's still a school today. We're now going to leave Pamphill and head in a sort of westerly direction. I think we've got a wood called Grove Wood which will be on our right. We've just made our way through a quite idyllic little bit of woodland now. We've come to a fork and we go to the right. Somewhere around here we cross an old Roman road, but I've looked high and low and I can't see it. I think we cross it on the homeward journey, so I'll tell you a bit more about it then, if I can find it. Oh, I tell you, it's quite glorious now. I wish I hadn't put so many clothes on, because it was quite chilly first thing. But this part of the walk, I say, it really is very pretty. My only sort of complaint is regarding the stiles. They're not really designed for the well-built gentleman. Well, it looks like this little section of the walk we're asked to keep dogs on a lead. A little update on the route. We've just come along a path that goes by that lovely red brick building there, and we're just about to join a lane called Sandy Lane. The path you can see directly in front of us, we'll be going along that on the homeward leg. That's called All Fools Lane. In fact, just on my right here, if you look on a 1901 map, there was once a pond. I can just about make out one today. So we're going to carry on along this road. We're actually now on part of the Stour Valley Way, which is that 64-mile long distance path that goes from Stour Head in Wiltshire all the way down to Christchurch. Well, although we're going along a road, it is a quiet country road, it is lovely just to stop from time to time and just to lean over a gate and look out across the fields and take in the views. Well, there's a few black ones left, so we ought to make the most of these while they're still around. There we go, fella. Yes, thanks, Dad. Well, this is an important part of the route for those folk that might be doing the walk after watching the video. This is where we leave the road. The road carries on round to the right on the way to Pamphill, but we take this track to the left, heading westwards, still on the Stour Valley Way. Oh, what a pretty little cottage. I think it's South Lodge, part of the Kingston Lacy estate. Now, looking at old maps again, if you look at a 1901 map, just to the west of the cottage, it looks like there was a Roman road. But it's a bit confusing because all the later maps show it much further to the east. Another important finger post. Now we'll be coming back up the Stour Valley Way from the direction of Sturminster Marshall. At the moment we just need to carry on along this this drove. It's got Kingston Lacy Drove on the signpost there. Well, another little fork, and this time, yeah, we branch off to the left, going down Sweetbriar Drove, a lovely name for a drove. Well, this gorgeous drover's route that we're walking along goes along a section actually of the Hardy Way, an old friend of ours, the 220-mile long distance path that winds its way through Dorset, and it connects places that have got a link with author and poet Thomas Hardy. Of course, it starts at Higher Bockhampton, where he was born, and finishes at Stinsford Churchyard, where his heart is buried. You know, one of the joys of getting out into the countryside at different times of the year is you can experience the varying seasons. Just looking out over this field, looks as though it's been prepared for a winter crop. Might have already been sown, I don't know. Well, this is as far west as we're going on the route. I'm going to leave the drover's track, and I'm going to start heading southwards along a quiet country road, or I hope it's quiet, to our next destination, the White Mill. Well, I tell you, I'm loving some of these views today. And of course the trees have still got their leaves at the moment. They're just beginning to turn to that sort of golden brown colour. Maybe a few more weeks yet. Wow, look at this. And this is the White Mill, looking quite splendid in the autumn sunshine. Now, there's been a mill here for centuries, certainly at least the 12th century. The mill today was rebuilt in 1776 and was working as a water-powered corn mill right up until 1866, when there was a big flood that destroyed a lot of the machinery. The owners converted half of the mill over to be run by a steam engine, but the mill ceased working at the end of the 19th century. Now, conservation work started in 1994, and I believe it still has its old machinery, but it doesn't operate as a working mill. And it's part of the Kingston Lacy estate and owned today by the National Trust. And you can visit it, and then you've got the original mill cottage attached to it on the right. Well, there's the White Mill over there, and I'm on the bridge looking over one of my favourite rivers, the River Stour. Of course, it's the longest river in Dorset, something like 61 miles. Well, just by the side of the road, on the southern side of the bridge, there's this little structure, and I've never seen anything like it before. I mean, I'm presuming it's got something to do with the defences in the Second World War. I don't know. I mean, it's in the ideal position, you know, defending the bridge, but as I said, I've never quite seen anything like that. Well, what a quite magnificent bridge. It's the White Mill Bridge, possibly the oldest bridge in Dorset. Certainly there was a bridge recorded here in 1175. The current bridge dates from the 16th century, but it stands on timber pilings that have been carbon dated to the 12th century. And it's 210 foot long and 12 foot wide. It's never actually been widened. And it's got 8 arches, and the largest arch is 19.5 foot wide. And the whole bridge was renovated in 1964. But doesn't it look beautiful? Well, we've left the White Mill and that terrific bridge and now heading eastwards along the Stour Valley Way, and sure enough we're following the course of the River Stour, which is looking quite serene at the moment. We have had a lot of rain recently, but even so it's got quite a smooth flow to it. So peaceful. Well, he's thinking about a dog dip. Get some fresh water. He says, "Oh, it looks a bit deep out there, Dad." Nah. Up you come. Well, just a little bit of housekeeping, folks, for those that might be doing the walk. I'd probably avoid this little section in the winter months. It's just about okay now, but I wouldn't be surprised if this floods regularly. We're just coming along this footpath along the side of the River Stour. What a perfect place to stretch your legs. Time for some Whippet zoomies. Cue the music. Well, a little update on the route. We've left the River Stour and we're now heading northwards along a track that's going to take us, well, I think to the outskirts of the Kingston Lacy estate. So this track that we're following northwards, it's still on the Stour Valley Way. This will eventually take us back to Sandy Lane, and then we'll retrace the sort of first part of our walk until we come across All Fools Lane. And then there's something we need to explore down there. Well, we've enjoyed a steady meander back along Sandy Lane, and this is where we leave the lane and head north and go down All Fools Lane, which might be a corruption of the word All Souls Lane. I was reading that, well, it was an ancient track that used to go from Salisbury to Dorchester, and in the 18th century I think it was known as Bear Lane. Oh, this really is your typical spooky countryside track. Logan's on squirrel alert. Actually, it's quite atmospheric, lovely and shady as well. But I'm trying to keep my eyes peeled, looking out for a Roman road. Well, no sign of this Roman road. Interesting, this hollow track just seems to kind of stop here, or should I say, well, it does carry on, but the footpath goes to the left. Now the Roman road that I was talking about, I mentioned it earlier on in the walk, is the one that goes from well, Badbury Rings in the northwest down to Hamworthy and Poole to the southeast. But I think I'm going to fail miserably to find it. If I just point the camera in this direction and say it's round about here somewhere. Well, a little pit stop to catch my breath because we've been going uphill on this sunken track. Just over on my left, so that's to the northwest. I've been told that in that little bit of woodland there's a terrific bluebell display in the spring each year. Whew. We've made it to the top of All Fools Lane and just come across a little road. It's Abbot Street. Now it was first mentioned in 1340. The name comes from the Abbot of Sherborne, who was granted the Saxon estate here by King Stephen in 1139. The original settlement was around just to the south, and that was called Abbotington or something like that, but that was abandoned at the time of the Black Death in order to establish a new settlement around Abbot Street here. And this remained until about 1786, when Henry Banks extended the Kingston Lacy Park and cleared most of the cottages, relocating them to Little Pamphill to the south. Indeed, the present St Stephen's Church occupies a site close to the pre-1786 village. A little fella gathering nuts already. I tell you, just shows how little prey drive old Logan's got. He's such a sweet dog, he really is. Now, if this had been Fiver, that would have been a different kettle of fish. Yeah, you're quite a tame little critter, aren't you? He says, oh, I'm quite happy nibbling away on this nut. Well, the clouds are beginning to appear. I think we've seen the best of the day. Just as well, we're right at the end of our walk. Now, just before we get to the car, what are we going to do? There's the pub or the cafe. Where would you go? Well, folks, here we are in the garden of the Pamphill Dairy Cafe. You thought I was going to the pub. So I've treated myself to a coffee, and I've got a scone and jam and cream and oh, crisps. Yes, sorry, how could I forget? They haven't got any pipers, I'm afraid. So what are these? Brown bag crisps. See what you think of those. Yeah, thumbs up from him. Well, we hope you enjoyed our walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today. The weather was glorious. As I say, the sun's gone in now, so that's why it's a bit dark. Well, I'm going to kick on with this. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio. I'll tell you what, you fancy a tiny bit of cream just to make sure it's okay for, yeah, I thought it was all right. Right, in we go.